was alerted through the media. The media heard rumors and gossip, and that's when I first got word. It was probably about from Friday to Tuesday until I actually got official word that they were coming to Oklahoma. And it was quite a shock to us because, you know, it's a military installation that we're taking these children to.
We're hearing governors in both parties saying they're finding out at the last minute buses are coming into their neighborhoods. Shouldn't the public have a right to know?
Well, Ed, the public does have a right to know what's happening, and that's why this administration has been trying to communicate very clearly with the public about the steps that we are taking to address the problem at the border.
Where the kids are going that you're giving to governors?
At the same time, there are privacy rights that are included in the law that this administration is committed to enforcing and following.
Immigration, the situation along the southern border, obviously taking front and center for the past couple of weeks now, and you have a number of cities and towns across the country that are pushing back. You have the mayor in one Massachusetts town that says her town can't handle it anymore.
We have been aware of the unaccompanied children issue for quite a while, but now it's gotten to the point where our school system is overwhelmed, our health department is overwhelmed, the city's budget is being substantially altered.
Lynn, Massachusetts is that mayor, and there you see the stats of foreign-born students in the schools, 2013 and 2014 up to 639, 248 of them from Guatemala and 126 of those illegal unaccompanied. What about this? Let's bring in our panel. Ron Fournier, senior political columnist of the National Journal. Nina Easton, columnist for Fortune magazine, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Ron, there's a push for the administration to secure the border, even though Harry Reid says it's already secured, from Republicans and some Democrats. And then you have the left pushing for compassion here, especially for these kids from Central America.
Yeah, the president is in a political pickle, but like we've seen before, this is one of those times where, yes, part of it is because of events outside of his control, and being president is a tough job, but a part of it, too, is him mishandling it, him not getting, instead of getting in front of an issue and leading on it, he's laid back and laid blame, and now he's getting hit from all sides.
What about this pushback, Nina? I mean, it seems palpable, you know, these different cities that are kind of saying, hey, not here.
They're overwhelmed, and I really think this issue is reaching this tipping point politically because, you know, immigration reform initially was seen as a bonus point for Democrats going into the 2014 election. It's you get out the vote, the Hispanic vote. You portray Republicans as obstructionists, but now what's happening is you've got this now with these mayors who are clearly good-hearted people and governors and so forth from both parties just saying we're being overwhelmed. Then you have the president facing these splits in his own party. You've got the people who think on the left who think that he's deporter-in-chief and he's not doing enough to keep these kids here. And then you've got the people who we're increasingly seeing community activists saying, what about our poor? What about the poor in our neighborhood? We need to be focused on them, not Central Americans. And then you've got the, you know, Martin O'Malley's who want to have it both ways. You know, not in my backyard, but, you know, we'd be sending these kids to, quote, to their death if we send them back.
His folks say that he's welcoming those kids into Maryland.
That he got that wrong.
It was one facility.
But that was the initial, that was at least the initial news out of Maryland over that.
Leaked likely from the White House after a big standoff conversation on Friday.
Right. Well, that was one of the many tosses under the bus, and I think in this case, Governor O'Malley deserved it. He's grandstanding. He opposes the president. He says, you know, we're a better country than this, and these kids are going to face death if they are returned, which is a mild exaggeration. And then it turns out that he didn't want to receive them in his own state. So I mean, that's a pretty hypocritical, and he got called on it. But you know, I think what's happening here, the political firestorm, is what was a theoretical debate for many years. It's now a real debate. The mayor of Lynn, this is a real debate. She lives in Lynn. It's not a border town in Massachusetts. Her schools are overwhelmed, health department's overwhelmed, and it's all because people in Central America decided on their own they would come. It wasn't a decision of the American people, American democracy, American government. And I was fascinated by the exchange between Ed Henry and Josh Earnest over the non-notification of the governors. The administration line, is this a question of privacy? I mean, that is absurd. This is a crock. Privacy? If you tell a governor that a certain number of illegal alien children are coming to a certain facility. There is no issue of privacy involved. He's not naming names. He's not putting a photograph on the internet. This is clearly an attempt of administration to try to handle a problem by concealing it from the people who most have to know, meaning the governors, the mayors, and the American people.
Ron, the legislation that's pending, the Cornyn-Cuellar legislation, the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, Hal Rogers, talked to reporters briefly today, said it will be done before we leave. Not sure when yet. We're scrubbing the numbers. Changing the 2008 law is not negotiable. We're ready on the money part. We have to craft it, have to get it scored, and as soon as we get it scored, we can move pretty quickly. The crisis on the border is consuming us now. You think this gets through?
I do, probably not in the exact form it's in now, but I think it's a shame it's taken this long. I mean, this is something that especially, you saw this bubbling up a lot more on Fox News and other conservative sites weeks and weeks ago. And it was something that was ignored by the mainstream media, and I think ignored by the White House. And I look at this and I kind of laugh. I got to think a guy like Bill Clinton is having terrible flashbacks. He almost lost his career. He lost his first term when Jimmy Carter sent a bunch of refugees to several states, including to Arkansas. And the Arkansas people blamed him for bowing to his Democratic president, much like O'Malley's worried about now. And Cubans and car tags just about destroyed his career in its infancy. And we're seeing the same kind of NIMBY, not in my backyard, get this away from me, that we saw back then. I'd love to have a conversation between Obama and Clinton on this one.
Yeah, and quickly, Nina, the Gallup poll, the newest poll, says most important issue facing the country, and illegal immigration as of this month is taking the lead. Obviously, there's a lot of focus on it, but you can see the tick down there, 1 point separating those three.
But still, that's a new development, and as Charles says, I mean, this is something that's very visceral and real. And I would add that leadership on this issue goes to this legislation and making a push, and they should have been make a push earlier. But the other leadership that should come out of the White House is standing up to these governments. You have reporters on the ground in these Central American countries watching government forces basically turn a blind eye to these smugglers as families are paying them $10,000 a kid to take these kids through this incredibly dangerous journey. I mean, he's got to stand up to those governments as well.
He's paying a political price already. 52% of Hispanic voters don't like the way he's handling this crisis. And these folks were already really upset with the way Obama was unable to get any kind of immigration reform through. And that's the heart of his coalition. They may not vote for Republicans in the midterms. I can't see that happening. But if they don't vote, that's akin to voting for Republicans as far as Obama's concerned.
We should point out the president of Honduras blamed U.S. drug policy, saying the attack on drugs has forced drug dealers to go into Honduras.
Look, the real
increase the violence.
George Bush and/or climate change. That's always the answer.
Next up, Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton do agree on something. It's probably not best to stand too close to President Obama.